And then another trend that I see you really jumping on right now is Patreon, paid content, putting out maybe one piece of content on like the Plug talk show or your No Jumper per week, and then like sort of like what we do, like then the pair or the twin Patreon episode later that week.
Yeah.
You seem to be doing that like across all of your platforms. Why did you switch to that? Because it was sort of recent. It was like about a year ago, maybe a little less, right?
We just had Patreon pressing us like, oh, you guys can make money if you do a Patreon or whatever. And, you know, we had been like kind of trying to figure out more like revenue sources and like more ways that we could just make the business make sense.
Patreon reached out to you, huh?
Yeah, they had been like hollering at us for a while. And at first I didn't want to do it because I felt like, you know that guy Sargon of Akkad?
Yes.
Who I really am not a big fan of, but they fucking deleted his Patreon account because he basically like he made a racist joke of some sort on someone else's podcast. Wasn't even on Patreon.
And Austin could talk about
white supremacist the N-word. That's what he got banned.
It was like ironic. There were like layers to it. It was not a racist thing he was doing.
And I'm not like a huge fan of him, but when that happened, Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, they pulled their shit off of Patreon.
I remember. I was on Patreon at the time, but it's good that you're reminding everybody of this.
And I wasn't even on Patreon at the time, but I remember just thinking like, that's fucking scary. Like Patreon will delete this guy for what was basically like an out of context fucking reference. Like I was just like, really turned off by them. And then to be honest, like they kept bugging me about it. And I actually emailed them back at one point and was like, no, I don't appreciate your attitude on free speech on your platform, so I'm not interested.
That was dope.
But then like a month later, I backtracked on that because I realized I could make a bunch of money. So
you puss.
Integrity.
Money talks,
integrity.
baby.
So Austin said that it was actually PayPal who put pressure on Patreon to remove Sargon of Akkad.
Really?
I don't know. It might have been MasterCard. It was whoever their payment processors were. Approached Patreon, apparently. This is the way I remembered it. And we're like, if you don't ban this guy, then we're not going to process your payments anymore on Patreon.
Right. Wow.
But since then, they haven't had to ban, I think, anybody else, really.
I don't think so either. I feel like if they had to go back, that they probably wouldn't even have banned him for that reason.
They got a lot of shit.
Such a convoluted reason.
I doubt they thought it was going to be as like controversial and backlash, like as much backlash as
and that they
thought.
would lose like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, who actually were making fuckloads of money on there at the time.
Jordan Peterson
hundreds
was
of thousands of dollars a month.
100,000. It was almost 100,000.
Hundreds of thousands a month. But huge respect to you for taking that free speech stance. I really appreciate that.
And then turning my back on it relatively soon after.
Well, but
you let him know
true.
for a little bit.
Still, you try for a couple
sweated
months.
it out.
But Patreon, that goes to show you that if they reached out to you, and recently they've reached out to me, they're coaches to help me grow my Patreon business. I've been on there forever and pretty successful, but we've just like recently revamped my personal Patreon.
Okay.
They're a cool company if they reached out to both of us individually because we do some edgy shit.
Yeah, which is the weird thing with them is that we do naked chicks on there, but we can't do like masturbation or sex. That's like the main rule. So we have to always be like trying to hit them up. Like, is this video of this girl licking this other girl's nipple? Is this masturbation? Or is this like sex? And they're like they actually said no on that. So we didn't have to censor that.
What about a finger up cigar guy's ass on a couch?
That we had to censor, and we had to put it on OnlyFans, I believe.
I like that.
So we have OnlyFans and we have Patreon. The OnlyFans is just like more obscene.
I guess if you want to see Cigar Guy's ass get fingered,
OnlyFans, no jumper.
I think quite a few already did of our fan base.
I'm sure.
But Adam, which is more profitable, Patreon or OnlyFans for you guys?
Patreon's the bigger one for some reason, even though the OnlyFans actually has more content. Yeah.
I guess just Patreon is maybe.
We just announced it first, so I feel like that's how people. Yeah, it's kind of odd having it like split between the two platforms when it's so similar. But we didn't realize when we started Patreon that girls were going to get so filthy on there. And then like the first episode, we've got Kazumi making her pussy talk, and like, you know, she's like just spreading her asshole open for the camera. And like then, you know, we had this one girl that like masturbated like on a towel on the ground and like squirted all over the ground. So it's like right away it was like, fuck, we got shit that we can't even put on Patreon. We gotta make an OnlyFans for that shit.
Yeah, you were crushing it. I remember you telling me how much you guys were making per month on Patreon. You were crushing it for like the first fucking month, huh? Yeah. And now I imagine it's only grown.
What do you see for the future for No Jumper?
Well, we got a store opening up on Fairfax, and we are seeing right now if we're gonna get fucking finally approved for our application for this fucking office that we're trying to buy in the Valley. That is only fucked up right now because maybe allegedly Hitler might have dumped nuclear waste into the ground during World War II. Not
What?
Hitler, obviously, he didn't come to America, but apparently World War II there might have been like fucking waste put in the ground. So we've been working on getting this building for like 6 months. And we might not get it just because there's some fucking goop in the ground. But
Damn.
so that might like be catastrophically slowing down our next hunt for a spot. But you know, hey, what can you do?
What's the vision? It's just a huge studio to do everything you're doing right now. The porn, you're gonna keep the plug talk show going at Lenna's house, though.
We
right?
have a second house that we do the fucking porn stuff in. And
Swolby knows.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, he had to walk of shame out of there.
Yeah.
We have like a separate house that we do all the porn stuff in, so we don't really cross the No Jumper porn streams too much.